My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
How do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Rent Perfect podcast, joined by Scott. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing so good.
I'm
so excited.
One of these days I'm going to open the show. I'm not even going to ask you. I'm just going to say.
And I'm just going to say I'm excited.
I'm just going to say I really don't even care how you do it. No, I'm mean. I'm so mean sometimes. Hey, I went to the doctor last week for kind of my annual checkup. Just getting over 50.
Right.
And said, hey, you're relatively in good shape, but your cardio is just terrible. You just got to get back to the gym. So last night.
Did you argue with that?
No.
Okay.
They know what they're talking about. I've got 10 or 20 pounds here, It's the good life I live.
That's right.
Yeah. So it, rings in my ear. So I head down to the gym last night. I paid that LA Fitness gym membership for years. Mm-hmm. And so last night I'm figuring cost me about $5,000 to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there working out, and I'm trying to keep it light because I know I'm going to pay for this if I go too hard. You know that feeling, right?
Yep.
So I leave. I'm feeling good about myself. Go home. Wake up this morning. Go to find my wallet. Where did I have it last?
Is it in the gym locker or it's on the bike?
It's
treadmill?
It's somewhere,
yeah,
right? Exactly. And I took it in because I hadn't been there in so long. I thought they were going to make me show my ID or something, whatever. So I'm like, oh, no. So I run down there this morning and just praying and hoping, knowing what we do for a living and having your identity stolen or your credit card used or violated, which happens all the time.
Anything compromised scares us to death.
All going through my head.
Yeah.
And so I go there and they're like, is this it? And I'm like, oh, sweet. So good ending to that story. But it made me think, what is if I were to ask you one of your most prized possessions, you might not even think to say my identity.
Yeah.
You'd say, oh, it's my wife, my kids, and that they're all great prizes.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't realize, or we kind of take advantage of these identities that we have. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about different identities that people could have and how they're using different identities to get around our system and fake us out.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about, first of all, we know that all applicants don't tell us the truth, right?
That is an unfortunate fact, yes.
That they obviously are motivated to tell us what they think we want to hear so they can get the roof over their head.
Doesn't it feel like the applicant is a teenage girl that you're raising in your house who tells you what you want to hear just so you're happy and placated for a few moments, right?
Right, totally, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're getting manipulated
right.
and we're getting, But I wonder, I don't think that the average person comes and says, I want to go lie to a landlord today. I don't think they do it because there's any joy in it. I think they do it because they have to. And the reason they have to is because they ruin their identity, right? So let's just think about, if I had the worst credit in the world, okay, and I went down, I wanted to buy a brand new GMC truck, like my dream truck, and I go down to the Chevrolet dealership or the GMC dealership, and I'm like, hey, and they pull my credit, and they're like, yeah.
Your 520 is not doing anything for us.
There's no way, we're financing you.
And,
And so then you end up going down to one of the kind of little shady streets where buy here, pay here, and Mike's Happy Car Company or something.
Right.
Everyone's guaranteed to drive off with a truck. And I don't get that brand new vehicle that's my dream, but maybe I can get another vehicle. And I go in there and I fill out an application, and they run my credit. And they're like, this has never happened before, but you don't even qualify here. You're not getting a truck, right? And I'm going to ask myself, well, why am I getting denied? Well, because your credit scores aren't good. Pretty much you've ruined your identity to, that shows how you pay.
Right.
So I might then come in with an application that changes my date of birth, changes my social, changes my name, so I can eventually get a car because I need a car.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, Scott, I can ride a bike. I can borrow a car, I can bum a ride. When it comes to housing, and you get told no, 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 what ultimately happens to you?
Well, I mean, it's that old saying that desperate times call for desperate measures, right? So when you sit and go, I can either sleep under an overpass or create an identity for myself.
Exactly, because the majority of people who do identity theft or fraud or change or get aliases, nothing ever happens to them. So there's no downside to it. If I lie to a landlord on an application, no one's calling the police, no one's coming.
Yeah,
So
I just go down the road and there's no consequence.
There's no consequences to it. So landlords, you're going to get lied to. People are going to manipulate their data. They've heard the reasons why they've been denied at previous places, and they're going to try to change those and get through our system. But one of the big things that they do, I want to talk about today, is they use aliases or they change their name. Okay?
I always thought it'd be cool as a kid to have an AKA. Like, I didn't even understand what that meant, right? And then as I got older, I'm like, oh, that doesn't say, it's not such a great idea anymore.
So the big, a big thing we need to know as landlords is we have to check everybody's aliases. And for females who get married and change their last name, they can have multiple aliases.
Mm-hmm. Unintentionally.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way society works, right?
Right.
Usually when we see a guy do a name change, it's a little bit more obvious, but sometimes girls can get away a little bit with.
We got maiden name, we
Right.
got married name.
Right.
Yeah, it just happens naturally.
So who comes in and usually applies for the husband and the wife usually?
I'd say usually it's the woman.
It's the woman.
Yeah.
Right? She's always coming in and, okay, send me 2 links. I'll fill out my husband's application for
Right.
him. And I'll,
Yep.
well, we want your husband to fill out his own application, but, we can't
We know what's
control.
gonna really happen.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
know that's pretty handwriting on
Yep.
both
Yeah.
applications or, online or however they apply their applications to you. But, so we need to be diligent in checking these aliases. And I will tell you, this is a place where instant database companies or other screening companies really let you down.
Mm-hmm.
You put in a name, a date of birth, a social, and they search that, only that, and charge you for what they charge you and give you back the results. But if there is criminal history or there's other things on aliases, you're not going to know about it. So though I love Zillow, and I think Zillow is so good at what they do and marketing and their technology company, part of their system I don't like is they don't give you back this alias, this investigation.
Yeah.
Right?
They're the convenience of what they provide for us comes at a cost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. They woo us with everything's so easy. It's right here at your fingertips. Push this button. It's integrated. Get an application from a tenant right now. As I use Zillow and I see somebody that says, okay, I'm a 625 to 650 score. I used to think Zillow was pulling their credit and giving me that score. Now I realize once I go in there, that's all self-reported.
Yeah.
Right? I make $120,000 a year when people used to apply, and I'm like, wow, okay, we're talking.
Yeah,
That's
great
all
tenant. Yeah.
self-reported
Yeah.
because when I run the app and I run their income, they're nowhere close to that. So you can't believe everything you see there anyways. But I love Zillow for their marketing. I don't like their background investigation because they just take this instant approach. And this is just one example today what we're going to show you. So, Scott, we had someone come in. I really don't want to lay out names and violate anybody's personal information, but I'm looking at a file on your desk, and if you're listening online, this file's an inch or two.
It's a good almost full stack of paper,
I mean, that's hundreds of pieces of paper there.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of idea about kind of someone coming in trying to kind of trick the system,
Right.
and how an investigative screening, what Rent Perfect does, stops that.
Sure. So let's just call her Karen. That's not her real name, but let's just call her Karen because that's a great name for nowadays. and so Karen gave us her first and last name, no middle name, which, I mean, not terribly unusual. I mean, we see that here and there, right?
Well, not that she didn't give us one. She said none.
None, right.
If she
Yeah,
told she didn't have
right,
one.
didn't have one.
Okay.
And so that, that to us is okay, we'll see. And so we start to run some of our reports on those things. We have her social security number. We have her date of birth.
Okay. Pulls a full credit bureau.
Pulls the full credit bureau, and we look at the credit bureau. And the credit bureau, I mean, it looks good.
She's a 622.
Yeah.
Average rental is
Right.
625. We're
Right.
like, okay.
She's current on all of her debts, and she has income, and we look at those pieces and go, okay, good, okay, that makes things match up.
And because she has a credit bureau, all of us as landlords never think, oh,
Yeah.
this is her true identity.
I have a real person
I
in
have
front
a
of
real
me.
person in front of me. She
Yep.
has a credit bureau. Great.
Yep. And then we went and as we always do, we kind of run things through different filters that we have. And one of those filters that we have comes back with a 0 name match for her, for Karen. It actually comes back with a different name, or it comes back with nothing. I mean, there's nothing really on that individual with that Social Security number. So,
which is odd to have a full credit report
Right.
and then not find them in other tools that we use.
Right. And so that red flags us a bit. Like, oh, our investigators kind of perk their ears up and go, okay, what's going on here? There's something up. So we run it through a separate database of information that we use, and then I get probably maybe close to 100 names that match. Same Social Security number, and all sorts of, just looking at the first page here, about 8 or 9 different last names attached to Karen's first name.
Right.
And then, and lo and behold, there's a middle name.
Oh,
but no, she doesn't have a middle name. She says none.
Nice. How many middle names does she have?
And then she uses the middle name as her first name often.
Right.
So she interchanges those. And so, again, about 100 different, what we would call aliases pop up on this individual. So, now we're really curious, right, to find out what's going on here. And that is not something you get on an instant database. Instant database would come back and say, no criminal record found. And so as we start digging in on and looking at those aliases, then it gets real interesting. Because
here's what's interesting as an investigator, right? So now I'm totally confused. What is the real name?
Yeah.
Who even is this person, right? Mm-hmm. So we call back, talk to the landlord, and say, hey, listen, it's going to take a little bit more than 4 to 6 hours on this one. This one is, for the $44 that I got paid to do this, we're probably spending $100 on this.
Yeah, we've doubled that.
And we
sure.
just know that we're going to have these files every once in a while.
Right.
So we call the landlord and say, hey, we can't get this back to you this quickly. We're going to have to ask your applicant for her Social Security card. So we call the applicant, need your Social Security card. What does she say?
Oh, I think I lost that.
Yeah, I don't have that.
I don't have that, and I don't have it, and I don't really even know my number. But she provided the number on the initial application.
Exactly. So then she says, but I do have something from the IRS. So
Right.
she sends us this doc. It's all whited out.
Yep, everything's redacted.
It gives you no information. And here she's trying to not give us, you give us that Social Security card, we're going to know what your legal name is, right?
Right.
So now she can't prove her identity. So we go hunting.
Yep. Which, by the way, the IRS document does indicate a middle name also.
Okay.
Right. So there's a lot of things. So so we go hunting, and I'm not gonna, but I can tell you that this, gosh.
And if you're just listening on a podcast, Scott's
I'm
through
probably 100+ pages of criminal history.
Okay.
Of criminal records of all sorts of violations, whether they're speeding or not paying tickets or not showing up, warrants.
So eventually our investigator dials down and gets the right name.
Correct.
Which is not the same name that they applied with.
Correct. Different. It's a completely different last name.
Yes.
Than the name they applied with.
So we do see that a couple of her last names are legit because she has been married before.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are just made up, just out of nowhere names. Anyways, in those many, many, many documents you're flipping through, give me some examples of some of the crimes.
A lot of theft.
Okay.
We've got cocaine possession, heroin possession, drug paraphernalia possession. And as we always talk about, rare is the case where the first time you use drugs is the time you get arrested.
Right. When you're getting caught for heroin or cocaine, you have it on you out and about somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Get pulled over.
It's probably not your first time buying it, using it, things like that. Lots of criminal damage, lots of theft, expired registration, expired tags. That tells me you're not paying for things, right? Drug paraphernalia, auto theft, a lot of speeding, a lot of stuff where
speeding in her car or speeding?
Speeding in the car.
Okay, well, a file like this, we don't want to judge anybody, but obviously what we're judging is, do we want this person in our rental? And I think the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is because this Karen will apply with a credit score at 622, hope that you don't catch all that other stuff under that other name, okay?
Mm-hmm.
She gets approved, moves into your place. Who do you think's coming to live with her after that couldn't pass, didn't have the documents or the names or the aliases?
Right.
Right?
Probably the guy that's supplying her the other things that she's getting in trouble
Exactly.
with.
So here you are as an innocent landlord. You used an instant database. You went through. You think you're doing everything right. FICO score looks okay. Okay, great. This looks halfway decent. You move in, and next thing you know, you have heroin addicts, druggies. Your place is getting ripped up. Rent's not getting paid, and you have an eviction. And you look at yourself and you say, "What? I did everything I thought I was supposed to do." An investigative background report, an investigative screening using private investigators can make a huge difference on your success. I can't stress that enough. Listen, we use technology, Scott. We use technology. We try to make it easy. But making something so easy doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way to do it. So you have to check these aliases. You have to do these investigations on these people.
We always talk about instant is rarely the better option for anything. Think about instant food, it's terrible, right? Instant anything is usually not the best option. So, and that applies especially here.
But I love in all of these screening companies that provide instant results, I love that they lead with that. They're happy about, we're getting you an answer right away. And I'm thinking, you're leading with that. If you knew what I knew, you knew that is not the thing you would lead with, right?
Yep.
I don't know, does instant coffee say, we can get you a cup of coffee like right now? It might not be the best, but
it's a quick fix.
But it's a quick fix.
Yeah.
So
Does McDonald's make the best hamburger on the market? No.
No.
But man, I can get one every mile as quick as I want.
Absolutely. So, hey, we want you to have the best tenants because that is going to be your success. That is the secret. Experienced landlords know, take some time up front, do the right thing. The reality is these are free background reports, whether they're from an instant or they're from an investigative.
Right.
They don't cost you any money. They're free. They're free from Zillow. They're free from Rent Perfect. Get the better one done. And in the long run, you will come way ahead, right?
Way ahead, yep.
Way ahead.
Sure.
You'll get rent. You'll be happy. You'll have a business partner for years and not run into these really landmines out there where you thought you did everything right. But Rent Perfect will provide you that investigative screening. We'll find you these files. One more note. The landlord comes back and says, hey, I've never had you guys have to supply the Social Security card before, almost as if we were doing something wrong.
Right.
And we were like, just be patient with us and let us go through what we know what to do. And then we come back with all of this, and they're like, oh, my gosh, thank you so much.
I think there's a thank you card coming in the mail.
Thank you so much for
this
taking that extra time to realize who this really was. We went from, why are you doing this, to, I know now why you're doing this. And so, hey, we appreciate you joining us today, Scott. Is there anything else you'd like to add here at all?
No, just continue to Rent Perfect.
Continue to Rent Perfect. Don't kill this many trees again next time, Scott.
Right.
I mean, look how many pieces of paper that is.
No kidding.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us, and continue to Rent Perfect.